You are surrounded by fools, and it is exhausting you to the bone. Not just annoying you, draining you, eating your hours, stealing your sleep, making you question if you are the one who is broken. You think your intelligence is your greatest asset, your ability to see clearly, to think logically. But here is the brutal truth. Your intelligence is your biggest vulnerability. The modern world has lied to you. It tells you to educate the ignorant, to use logic, to find common ground. Arthur Schopenhauer knew the brutal truth 2 centuries ago. Logic is defenseless against stupidity, not just ineffective, defenseless. Explaining your mind to a fool is not noble. It is intellectual suicide. You are not teaching. You are bleeding in front of someone who does not care. There is a hidden, almost ruthless architecture to neutralizing the willfully ignorant, a method the most dangerous minds in history used to disarm fools without ever giving them the truth. Once you understand this mechanic, you will never be drained by a lesser mind again. Not because they will stop trying, because you will stop letting them. You know the ache. Do not pretend you do not. You are sitting in a room, a boardroom, a family dinner, a digital battleground, listening to someone speak with absolute, unshakable confidence about something they completely misunderstand. You feel the pressure building in your chest. Your brain maps the flaws in their logic. You gather your facts. You lay out your argument perfectly, expecting the light of reason to wash over their face. Instead, they stare at you, they blink, and then they double down, louder this time, as if volume replaces evidence. You leave exhausted, your energy depleted. You sit in your car and question your own sanity. Am I wrong? Am I the problem? No, you are suffering from the intelligence trap. You are projecting your own operating system onto a machine that cannot run it. Intelligent people operate under a fatal delusion that the rest of the world values the truth. You assume that if you present the right evidence, they will analyze it, adjust, and agree. You assume they are playing the same game as you. They are not. Schopenhauer observed a dark, unyielding law. People do not argue to find the truth. They argue to establish dominance. Psychology calls it the Dunning-Kruger effect. People with low ability possess a hallucinatory level of confidence. They do not know what they do not know. And worse, they cannot even see that they do not know. Ignorance is not passive. It is an active, heavily armored defense mechanism. When you introduce logic to a fool, they do not see an opportunity to learn. They see a threat to their ego. And the human ego will burn down the entire world before it admits it is wrong. Daniel Kahneman divided the mind into System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, emotional, instinctual. System 2 is slow, deliberate, logical. Stupid people are prisoners of System 1. They feel an emotion, attach a fast opinion to it, and call it a fact. You are trying to use System 2 on them. You are offering nuance, data, complexity. It is a translation error. You are speaking mathematics to a barking dog. Worse, you are doing all the work. You spend immense energy crafting a perfect argument while they spend zero energy simply refusing to accept it. They drain you not by outsmarting you, but by outlasting you. They drag you into the mud of their own limitations and wait for you to drown. Schopenhauer realized that truth has no currency in a debate with a fool. So, what do? If logic fails, how do you win? You do not fight them. You weaponize their own momentum. The intellect is a servant to the will. The blind, irrational drive, always wins. When you argue with a fool, you give them exactly what they want. Friction. Friction makes them feel important. Your frustration proves they matter. To break a fool, you must deny them friction. How? By using Schopenhauer's most savage strategy. Do not disagree with them. Agree with them. but agree so completely, so violently, that you push their argument into pure absurdity. In philosophy, this is reductio ad absurdum. In dark psychology, it is handing a man enough rope to hang himself. Imagine a colleague who insists all modern art is a scam and anyone could paint a masterpiece. Your instinct is to argue about technique and history. Stop. Lean in. Nod slowly. Say, "You are entirely right. In fact, let's quit our jobs today. We'll buy paint this afternoon. You do the canvases. I'll find the gallery. Millionaires by Friday. Why are we even sitting here?" Watch their eyes. Watch the confusion. Watch the panic. You have not attacked them. You validated their premise, then accelerated it to its catastrophic conclusion. The fool never thinks 3 steps ahead. When you force them to look at the destination of their own logic, their brain short-circuits. They have to backpedal, inject nuance, argue against themselves just to save face. You did not defeat them with your logic. You defeated them with their own stupidity. Schopenhauer employed this mercilessly against his rivals. He magnified their flaws until they became comical. When you do this, you protect your energy. You step out of the ring. You become the observer, watching a child trip over his own shoelaces. But this requires a terrifying shift. You must kill your need to be right. Intelligent people are addicted to being correct. You want the satisfaction of the other person conceding. You want the moral victory. Schopenhauer would say, seeking validation from a fool is the ultimate stupidity. Why do you care if a lesser mind acknowledges your brilliance? Why do you need a blind man to compliment your painting? When you drop the need to be right in their eyes, you become immune. You stop giving them the remote control to your nervous system. Let them hold their incorrect beliefs. It is not your duty to save them. It is your duty to protect yourself from them. Which brings us to a darker truth. Stupidity is highly contagious. If you spend enough time navigating a fool's chaotic mind, you will compromise your own. Cognitive load theory says your mental bandwidth is finite. When you interact with an irrational person, your brain works overtime. You suppress frustration. You walk on eggshells. This sustained taxation degrades your decision-making. You become irritable. You make poor choices. You lose your creative edge. You are letting a parasite feed on your intellectual capital. Schopenhauer was called a misanthrope, but he was simply ruthless about his mental diet. He wrote, "To marry is to have your rights and double your duties." Same for conversation. To engage a fool is to halve your intelligence and double your exhaustion. He developed the porcupine dilemma. On a cold night, porcupines huddle for warmth but prick each other. They freeze alone or bleed together. You must master this distance. You cannot avoid stupid people entirely. They are your managers, clients, neighbors, sometimes your blood. But you must establish a psychological quarantine. When forced to interact, do not bring your authentic self. Bring an avatar. The avatar is polite. The avatar smiles. The avatar says, "Interesting perspective. I see what you mean." The avatar gives them nothing to attack. Your real mind stays behind a fortress of detachment. They will think they are winning. Let them. The illusion of victory is the cheapest toy you can give a fool to keep them quiet. Do you feel the guilt rising? The conditioning that says this is manipulative? Kill that guilt. That guilt is why you have been suffering. You have been treating intellectual predators like fragile victims. A foolish person who aggressively insists on their own ignorance is not innocent. They are a hazard. David Robson's The Intelligence Trap shows how institutional stupidity has caused plane crashes, economic collapses, medical disasters. Stupidity is dangerous. You do not owe it your vulnerability. You do not owe it your energy. View their ignorance as a force of nature. You do not argue with a hurricane. You board the windows. You seek high ground. And you let the storm exhaust itself. But what happens when the fool has power over you? When they sign your paycheck? When the system rewards the loudest idiot in the room? This requires different weapons. The most dangerous animal is the frightened beast with a crown. When a low-intellect person gains power, their entire psychology is built on unacknowledged insecurity. They sense they are outmatched. They do not seek to learn. They seek to destroy the threat. If you display brilliance, you are not proving worth. You are holding a mirror to their inadequacy, and a fool with power will shatter the mirror. Schopenhauer wrote that to display conspicuous intelligence in the presence of mediocrity is an unpardonable sin. The mediocre mind feels physical pain in the presence of greatness. They will not attack your intelligence. They will attack your character. Difficult, uncooperative, not a team player. You cannot out-argue a king in his castle. You must outplay him. Look at Sima Yi, the most brilliant strategist of his era. He served under Cao Shuang, a regent of immense power and staggering foolishness. Cao Shuang was arrogant, envious of Sima Yi's mind. If Sima Yi challenged him, he and his bloodline would be executed. So Sima Yi executed the most effective strategy in history, the submission gambit. He faked senility. When spies came, he dropped soup on his robes, pretended he could not hear, confused names, looked broken. Cao Shuang laughed, felt superior, felt safe, lowered his defenses. Months later, while Cao Shuang was hunting, Sima Yi rose from his sickbed, orchestrated a lightning coup, and seized the empire. Cao Shuang lost his head because he believed the illusion. Your intelligence is not a badge, it is a concealed weapon. You do not draw it to show off. You keep it hidden until the exact moment it is required. When dealing with a powerful fool, feed them what they starve for: superiority. Ask their advice on trivial matters. Let them correct minor details. Thank them for their insight. You are not submitting. You are anesthetizing them. You trade a scratch to your pride for absolute maneuverability. There is a specific exhaustion from trying to translate complex reality for a simplistic mind. You draw diagrams, use analogies, break concepts into atoms, and they still stare blankly before repeating the same flawed argument. This is the heart of the trap. You assume their failure to understand is a failure of your explanation. It is not. It is a failure of their hardware. Research reveals a chilling fact. Highly intelligent people are uniquely vulnerable to believing everyone else processes information the same way they do. You think in probabilities. You weigh evidence. You adjust. The fool thinks in absolutes. They form a conclusion based on emotion or tribal loyalty, then reject any contradictory data. Trying to force nuance is like installing new software on a broken machine. It does not work. So, stop trying. Schopenhauer advised strategic irony. When a fool corners you, say, "What you are proposing is so extraordinary, it transcends my poor capacity to understand it. I defer to your judgment." The fool will puff out their chest. They will think you conceded, but anyone with intelligence will hear the sarcasm. You insulted them to their face, and they thanked you. You exited without spending a calorie of energy. Understand the economics of attention. Every hour, debating a fool is an hour stolen from your own empire. Energy diverted from your wealth, your health, your goals. Fools are energy vampires. They do not produce, they consume. They drag you into endless loops because they have nothing better to do. Your time is expensive. Theirs is worthless. When you engage, you trade gold for dirt. Cut the transaction, walk away, let them believe they won. The lion does not lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. Now we address the darkest part of your psychology. The reason you keep engaging. It is not just that you want to be right. It is that you feel sorry for them. You think, if I just make them see the truth, their life will improve. This is the arrogance of empathy. You believe you are the savior of the ignorant. You are playing God with someone else's cognitive limits. Kruger and Dunning's landmark study revealed the cruelest joke. The skills required to be competent are the same skills required to recognize competence. Therefore, the profoundly incompetent lack the metacognition to even realize they are incompetent. They are trapped in a fortress of unearned confidence. You cannot save them. They do not want to be saved. They enjoy the fortress. It is warm inside. When you try to drag them into the light, you are not a healer. You are an invader. And they will fight you like a wild animal. Look at your life. The broke friend who lectures about money. The toxic relative who creates drama. How many years have you spent trying to fix them? How many hours of sleep lost? They have not changed 1 degree. But you have aged. You have grown cynical. Your empathy is funding their delusion. Schopenhauer believed character is immutable. A fool today is a fool tomorrow. Accepting this requires emotional amputation. You stop trying to upgrade them. You start managing them. You manage a fool like heavy machinery. Keep your hands out of the gears. Expect it to operate as it was built. When it malfunctions, you do not argue. You pull the plug. What happens when you finally stop fighting? You drop the rope. You stop explaining. You simply observe the circus without participating. You experience a terrifying shift. You realize how much of your identity was wrapped up in being the smartest person in the room. You realize you relied on the friction of debating fools to feel alive. Take that away, and you are left with yourself. Most intelligent people surround themselves with lesser minds intentionally because it is safe. It is easy to look like a genius among idiots. But Schopenhauer warned, a man of high intellect who fraternizes with the vulgar will be dragged down to their level. The mind adapts. Argue about trivialities, and your mind becomes trivial. You must withdraw, not into a cave, a mental withdrawal, an emotional quarantine. Become comfortable with being misunderstood. Fools will call you arrogant. They will say you have changed. Let them. Their judgment is based on a flawed premise. Why should the judgment of a flawed mind affect the peace of a sharp one? Imagine walking through an asylum. Patients point at you and call you crazy. Do you stop to debate? No. You keep walking. You know their reality is distorted. When a fool insults you, it is not an insult. It is a misdiagnosis. When they reject your idea, it is confirmation that your idea is beyond their reach. This detachment is not coldness. It is absolute clarity. Your energy is finite. Every drop spent on someone committed to their own ignorance is a drop stolen from your potential. We have glorified the debate for centuries, the intellectual warrior dismantling opponents with sharp logic. But look closer. Nothing is resolved. The audience cheers for their own side. It is theater. The truly dangerous minds do not play for applause. They play for outcomes. Abandon the theater. Adopt the mindset of an architect navigating a world of toddlers. You do not ask toddlers for permission to build. You do not explain load-bearing pillars. You give them a toy, and you pour the concrete while they look away. Accept the world as it is, dominated by irrationality, driven by emotion, hostile to truth. Do not complain. Do not try to fix it. Exploit it. When you know people operate on ego, use their ego to steer them. When you know they are blind to logic, use their emotions to guide them. When you know they starve for validation, feed them just enough to keep them compliant. Become the invisible hand. They think they are in control. but every choice they make is within the parameters you silently constructed. This is the transition from intelligence to power. Intelligence is knowing you are right. Power is not caring if they know it. Intelligence wins the argument. Power wins the objective while they think they won the argument. You clicked on this because you were exhausted, tired of the friction, the circular conversations, the feeling of losing your mind trying to inject reason into an unreasonable world. You thought the solution was a better argument, sharper facts, a more persuasive tone. Now you know the truth. The solution is surrender. Not surrendering to them, surrendering your need to change them. The moment you let go of the desire to be understood by people incapable of understanding, the weight lifts. The exhaustion vanishes. You watch them speak. Instead of anger, you feel calm, clinical observation. You see the cognitive biases, the fragile ego defending itself. It becomes predictable. And what is predictable can be managed. You are no longer a participant in their chaos. You are the observer. This is the therapeutic darkness. This is the cold, sharp reality that sets you free. You will never be hurt by a fool again, because you will never again give them the authority to judge your reality. Your intellect is no longer a tool for their education. It is a weapon for your own elevation. Keep it sharp, keep it hidden, use it only when it serves your ascent. But realize this. The tactics we just discussed, strategic incompetence, ego manipulation, weaponized absurdity, are just the outer defenses, tools to survive the masses. What happens when you encounter a mind that is not a fool, but a predator? A mind that sees your strategy and mirrors it back. The rules change entirely. Those concepts are not meant for public consumption. They are too destabilizing. If this opened your eyes, understand this is only what I can show publicly. There are videos I cannot upload. The algorithm suppresses the most powerful information. Those exist behind the join button. If you are still here, you are not like the others. Subscribe to Imperial Mindset if you have not. But if you want what is hidden, the uncensored videos that dive into the deepest parts of the human psyche, click the join button and step into the architect level. Most will not. That is the point.